and welcome to Spotlight on Souris, brought to you by WCG TV, Access Channel 12, right here in Souris, Manitoba. My name is Laura Simons, and today is August the 16th of 2017, and today we have with us, I'm so excited about this, we have Rebeca Jenkins with us, who is born and raised in Souris, and who has recently launched her new book.
Yeah.
Welcome, Rebeca.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here.
I'm glad to be here.
I'm very excited about this. Now,
Me
tell
too.
me, you're a Souris resident,
Yes.
born and raised here,
Yes.
right? Okay,
Yep.
and you work in our community as well.
I do. I run a business. I have a hair salon in town, and I work out of my home.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
so it's good.
And somewhere along the line,
Yeah.
besides being a hairdresser,
Yeah.
you had decided to become an author.
Yeah.
Where did the inspiration for that come
Yeah. Well, when I did take a little break from being a hairdresser, and I actually worked for the town of Souris for 3 years, just briefly. And the history book was actually being written at the time. And so I had to read every speck and shred of Souris history, even like council meeting minutes, for months. So
Wow.
this little piece of history about Souris, this Women's Christian Temperance Union, was an actual group that started in the late 1800s here, and they started a hospital. The council actually asked them, please start a hospital here. So they did, and there's a brick house on Dixon Street, I think Swanee Pools own it. Actually, that was the first cottage hospital. So the women got together, fundraised, put this hospital together out of nothing, and then as soon as it was open, they were not allowed to run it. The newspapers were full of angry letters. This hospital cannot be in the hands of a bunch of women.
Oh, okay.
Absolutely no women running this hospital. This is not acceptable. We can't have 47 people deciding for the whole entire group, which I think was 1,000. So public outcry. So at the time, the women just said, okay, canceled their opening, just stepped back and said, no problem.
So it was a whole community in on this, not just...
I believe so. It's really hard. Like all I have is fragments of it, so I
Okay.
just kind of took from the fragments. So in the book, it's actual Manitoba legislation, and all of the the letters and everything are in it, and kind of the prevailing attitude of the time of the men are in it. So
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So you learned all this history.
Yes,
and
when
it
I worked
stuck
for the
with
town.
you. And
Yeah.
was it something that was being planted in your head at the time, or had you always thought, I'm going to write something?
I always knew. I looked
Did
at that
you?
the first
Okay.
time I looked at it. I'm like, this would be a great book.
Okay.
And I always loved writing. Like I think everybody gets asked that, like, when did you start wanting to write? I think you just always want to write. That's just part of you.
Okay.
So I've been writing since I was hiding from chores in my closet at home.
Okay. Good admission. Okay, so you've always wanted to be an author. It's just part of your blood.
Yeah.
You took up hairdressing because that's
It
is something that you
normal,
love,
and it's normal.
Yeah.
Not
Yeah.
everybody writes books. So yeah, so
But
it
it's
was
something that you love
yeah,
to
I
do.
do
It's
love
something
that.
that is a paycheck.
It is, yeah.
I love
And I love
nursing,
it,
and
yeah.
it is paycheck, but
Yeah.
I really love my job.
Yeah.
But also you have this something
I
inside
had
of
to,
you.
yeah, I think I turned 40 and it was like a hit by a truck, and I was like, I gotta do this.
Okay.
I gotta get this.
So
done.
because you had all this history in your head
Yeah.
from doing this job, and because you lived here, you lived and worked
Yeah.
here.
And that's why I wrote about Souris. Everybody asks why Souris, and I'm like, well, all the history was here. Like all the legislations in Manitoba. Like I have gone to archives and like tons of research goes into a book like this. So to try to write something in a different country or a different province even would have been impossible.
Yeah.
Because all my research had to be dead on.
Yes. And lots of it
It
was
was
already,
here.
already
Yeah.
in your head.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So that being said,
Yeah.
tell us more about, you told us sort of the background of the novel.
Okay.
Tell us sort of a guideline about how the novel is, what's in the
Why?
novel.
Okay.
What it's
Like the
about.
inspiration behind it, really, or what it's about, or
Well,
both.
you said the inspiration was some of the history that
Yeah.
you got.
Yeah.
Now, some of it is based on fact, you said, but then
Yes.
there's some that's fiction, because you had to fill in the blanks,
Yeah.
right?
So the other piece of fact while we're on it,
Okay.
Ada Bennett in this book, she's on Bennett Farm, which is the farm I grew up on. Everybody probably knows Minnie Buckley, maybe, old-time Souris residents,
Okay.
because she taught everybody how to play piano. So her
Right.
mother was Elizabeth Buckley. So I was raised on Buckley Farm. So I wrote about it as Bennett Farm. Ada Bennett, or Elizabeth Buckley, actually saw a child in a neighboring town who was being mistreated. So she and her friend went and took those kids and raised them as their own. So that was a true event. So I wrote that event in here.
Mhm.
So that was another big piece of the inspiration behind this book, because I thought that story shouldn't be lost to time.
Okay.
That should be celebrated, really.
Mhm.
So she raised that girl as her own. So
Wow.
on the farm I grew up on.
Wow.
So I wanted to write about that farm too, because it's very special to me. Souris and that farm are special to me.
Mhm.
So that's real. The rest is fiction.
Okay. Okay. And
Yeah.
then how did you come up with the rest of the fiction?
Well, I'm an aunt, and so this is about an aunt and her niece and how she wants her to have the best life she can have. And as far as her aunt's concerned, that means be educated and challenge conventional roles. At the time, of course, women were not considered equal to men. So I wanted my niece to know that, and I wanted her to know that we've come a long way, and we're still coming a long way, and women can be equal to men. And even though Till had to challenge all of that, she kind of paved the way for Shannon in a way. So the relationship between Till and Shannon, I hope isn't as extreme as the ones with me and my nieces, but it's a tiny bit. Till's a tiny bit like me.
So, okay.
A little bit, yeah.
So the fiction is, there's a lot of you, and a lot of your history, and a lot of...
Yeah, well, how I feel about certain things, yeah, definitely. You can't write a book without your own thoughts and feelings in it. So Till was a good way to... So
absolutely.
It was fun to do.
Okay.
And my niece is reading it, and she's like, she's terrible. So I know.
Okay, so Till was the aunt.
And Shannon's the niece. So Shannon is the one who is sent to Canada just to avoid a scandal. I don't want to tell you too much, but she drops in Manitoba, Souris, which I call Oakland, and she lives in a little carriage house that's connected to Hillcrest. And she's a midwife, and she's been trained as a midwife for 10 years. So she's, you know, working with all these women, and she's in their lives, and she's finding out all these things that are not true. This is not true Souris history. There was never prostitutes in Souris.
Okay. Okay.
The maid I write about didn't exist.
Okay. Okay.
So I just kind of took things that women have experienced that I've heard about because I've been a hairdresser for a million years, and just kind of switched it up and moved it around. So it talks about domestic abuse. It talks about women who try to take over other women's lives. It talks about prostitution at the time and how that all works. And I needed that to do my next book, so because I have a sequel to do for this book. So
so you're working on a sequel.
I have a prequel and a sequel I'm doing at the same time. So I'm working on them because some characters overlap into both. So
how can you do a prequel then? How do you...
when you meet Matt and Priscilla in this book, you'll be like, oh, what's their story? So I'll be releasing that.
Okay.
Yeah, they kind of showed up, and I was like, oh, I like them.
Yeah.
I think they need their own book. So they're getting their own book until, of course, has to have her own book. She's screaming mad that she's not first. But anyway, we'll get to her.
Yeah, no kidding. So this one is mostly about Shannon.
This is all
and
about
what
Shannon.
happens with Shannon when she comes to Souris.
Yeah, so she has to decide. So this constable is hired to protect her because she's, of course, unearthing all this crap.
Oh, yes.
So they're, of course, falling in love. But you don't know, like, is she going to stay with him? Because Till's screaming, like, you better get back here, and you better finish school, and you need to be your own person. And she's going crazy. And, you know, the people in the community are like, we really like you, I want you to stay. And Cole's like, I'm in love with you. And she's like, I don't know what to do. So, yeah. So then you find out, like, what's she going to decide? Is she going to stay here and turn her back on her aunt in that crusade, that suffragette crusade in England, or is she going to go back? So you don't...
Yes, but isn't she unearthing things here in Souris?
She is.
Not just a love story, and not just
Oh, no,
friends.
it's...
Like,
yeah.
she's getting some things done for women's rights.
Yeah. And
so,
chapter 30, when you read it, if you do read it, it was my absolute favorite, because she has to stand down everything that she's figured out here. So it's kind of fun.
Right. Good.
Yeah. So yeah, it's not just to me the romance part was so small I didn't even think of it as that, but other people are like, oh, that was kind of a nice part. And I'm like, oh, good, because it really wasn't about that. It was about this woman coming in and unearthing all this craziness, and he keeps her alive. So that's nice of him.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
So tell me, you talked about what the novel's about.
Yeah.
What did you find was the biggest challenge of putting this thing together? Because
research.
Okay, the research was the biggest challenge.
Was the biggest challenge.
But didn't you also tell me about your publishing?
Oh, yeah,
publishing. You didn't.
Okay, writing the book was researching it.
Right.
So going to archives and dealing with all of that and making sure, like, each word in here, there's one word I had to change. I didn't like changing it, but I had to, which is not 100% accurate, but anyway, it's 99.9%. So the research was a nightmare, and then finding and publishing it was a disaster. Like, it was just so hard.
Yes.
Because I had a budget I had to work under, because I could not. Typically, a book like this would cost $10,000. That's what they told me, $10,000 to do a book like this.
Wow.
So I actually went. A friend of a friend was a writer, so she told me about a Facebook page called Clean Independent Reads, and you can't go on there unless you're an author and you have to be invited in.
Okay.
This whole world of authors is underground. These indie authors are a strange group. Anyway, so I got invited into the underground Clean Independent Reads, and I went on there and I said, I need an editor. And so I found Alex McGilvery. I can't even believe that I found him, and he's Manitoban. Like, everybody on this thing is all over the place. Like, there's people from England, the States. Sure. So he started working with me in February 1st, and it took us until June to finish this project, because I just didn't know what I was doing. And I even, in my first email, I said, okay, I'm warning you, he was my price range I could afford, but I didn't know if he'd want to work with me because I was a hairdresser for 22 years. Like I didn't even know I didn't know anything. So he's like, send me 5,000 words. So I sent him the 5,000, and I was just so impressed with what he did with it. And so for me, editing became less about editing and more just a writing course, because I learned so much from him. He was fantastic.
Very good. It's very important to have a good rapport with
yeah.
people like that.
Oh, I don't know how he put up with me at all, and I don't even know why he's agreed to do the other books, but anyway, he has. So I'm just like, you're holding him to it. So yeah. So
wow.
I think I'll probably be working with him if he'll put up with me.
So self-published.
Yeah, so
under budget from the bigger publishing companies.
Yes.
And you didn't have anybody say to you from the bigger publishing, we don't like it, we're not going to publish it.
No, but your editor does that. Your editor.
Okay.
Like, you can't go into this with a big ego. You have to go in humble.
Right.
So he would send back all.
But then he's doing his job.
He's doing his job, and that's what I paid him for. And
yeah.
I would go to bed crying, and I'd go, but he's doing his job. So anyway. So, and it's a big book. Like, a typical book is 80,000 words. This is 120,000 words, this book. So it was a monster for
yes.
he's like,
yes.
how did you write such a long first book? I said, I have a lot to say. So some of it got cut, and it's going in the next book. But yeah, so the editing was a huge process. Then I had a proofreader that didn't do the job she said she was going to do. I had the proofs printed. A close friend of mine is an English teacher. She phoned me, and she's like, don't print this book. Don't print it, pull it. It's full of mistakes. She found like 200 mistakes. So after paying for the proofing, I had to go and source another proofer, get in line, because people aren't just sitting around wanting to proof 120,000 word book.
Yes, no kidding.
And she was like, yeah, I'll put you on my list. I'm like, because I could afford her. Because again, I'm working on this very tight budget, right? So Alex found me. Alex was fantastic. He did content and line by line, which is excruciating, and then proofing was done by another person. The book cover design was done by someone Alex knew that does his books, and then this is Hillcrest. So all the this Hillcrest thing goes on everything because it's it's a visual for my brand basically. It sounds pretentious, but that's what it is. So Hillcrest is on everything, and Dana Stam from Souris actually did Hillcrest for me, so I was really happy about that.
Nice,
because
yes.
I'm like, thank you, Dana, because I called her and I'm like, I'm desperate. I need this for my book cover. She's the next day had it to me, and the book cover was done. So
long as legwork you did on your novel is something that normally
that's what a publishing house does.
Yes.
Like usually you hand it to the publishing house and they do all of this. And you just edit with them, and then when you're done all your editing, they look after everything. So when you're doing your own self-publishing, you are your marketing agent, your designer, your everything.
You're involved in
just
every step of the process.
Spec of the process. I was like trying to throw money at stuff by the end. I'm like, please just do it.
Okay, and on top of that, you said you work on two other books.
I have two other. I didn't start them though until now.
Yeah.
I didn't try to do them.
Okay, but you have them piled up someplace in your mind.
Yeah, they're in my head, and they don't let me sleep off it at night. So, yeah, it's funny because I think about Matt and Priscilla's book usually in the morning, but I think about Till's book at night. So I try to write different times of the day to accommodate the different characters that live in my brain. So hopefully when their books are done, they're out of my brain.
Yeah.
Because they're hard to live with. Yeah. It's like being slightly schizophrenic, but anyway.
But don't worry, there'll be new characters to take their place.
Yeah, they're cropping up, and I'm like, not yet.
If this has always been in your blood,
yeah,
then you can't help
something
it, right?
that I absolutely love to do.
Yeah. So you were talking about you being an aunt and having a niece, and this aunt and niece.
Yeah.
Working together, so that their characters are sort of based loosely on on your characters.
I'm nicer than her.
But that's why you get to write her that way, because some of the good parts can be based on you, but you can be extreme in that,
I can
right?
be really
if you're
extreme.
writing.
Yeah.
Okay, so what about the other characters? How many of them are written based on somebody?
Not any of them really, because first of all, you can't just write about people in your life. But I will say this, like, Cole is kind of a composite of a lot of men in my life that I've known. Cole is lovely. Everybody loves him. My niece is like, I didn't like that chapter because Cole wasn't in it. I'm in love with him. I'm like, good. He's the kind of guy you should go for. Yeah. But anyway, he's a composite of a lot of different men. So I kind of took the best of all the men in my life, put them into one guy, and got rid of all their flaws. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I don't really feel like there's any one person that is based entirely on a person. I just kind of took pieces of things I like from people and mixed them up and made these characters. So. Okay. Don't have to worry, none of my clients are in my family.
Yes. Well, sometimes people can worry.
Yes.
you know, there's lots of stories that we tell
Yeah.
that are that liken to other people's lives and stories. And then sometimes there's people in history that you just admire and you know that their story has to be told.
Well, Elizabeth's story had to be told, I
Right.
felt, because I thought, you know, somebody, and when Lord Harper says in the book, because Shannon says, how are you going to go and take this kid, this child? And Lord Harper says, it's the law of humanity. It does not allow me to not go in and take this child. And I mean, I said that on basically Elizabeth's behalf, but I would have assumed that she would have been sitting with her friend saying, there's no laws for this. This is the law of humanity. We just have to do this. So that's, I kind of took, I'm assuming, because she's been dead for 50 years, but I'm assuming like that's maybe what she used to just go in there, because I can't even imagine the guts it would take to go in someone else's farm and say, yeah, you're done. Yeah, your kids are coming home with me.
Yes.
I don't know how 2 women did that in 1904, but they did. So, and those children are, I don't know where they are, but yeah, pretty neat.
Wow. So, besides you working on the other 2 novels, like you say now that this has been out, you're working on those 2, and you're hairdressing yourself, your own business.
Part-time, like I always have,
So, you want to continue to be an author? And
yes.
That's great.
Yeah, now that I've gotten through this nightmare.
That sounds very exciting. What you've been through.
Yeah,
like,
it was
something
exciting.
that's inside you that needs to come out. It's come out.
But the terrifying thing was, I'll be honest, the terrifying thing was I have quite a few clients. So as soon as this book, and they've heard this whole process in depth, and my family and everybody, and as soon as I was launching this book, I thought, am I going to have like 5 people at this book launch? Like, what's going to happen with this book launch? So I phoned a friend who had a microphone. I said, just bring the microphone, and I'm going to hide it behind a door because I'm probably not going to need it. Like maybe 5 people are going to come. I'm like, really, who cares about it? Souris was amazing because, like, I absolutely promoted it, of course, and I had my friends all came, and I thought, well, there's 10 people that are coming, I know for sure, because they're like doing the food and the music and all that. So we'll have fun. So we set up this great big tent garden tea party on the grounds of Hillcrest, and we were all dressed in tea gowns, and I mean, it was extravagant. I thought, if this is going to be a flop, it's going to be really bad, but whatever. 150 people from this community came.
Nice.
I was stunned.
Yeah.
I just kept looking up and seeing like this sea of people on the grounds of Hillcrest, and I had said to everyone, wear white if you want to be in costume, and people were there in white, and people were excited, and people were happy for me. People I hardly even knew. And people brought sisters and mothers, and I was like, I am stunned at. So I really feel like Souris kind of took over this little project, and it's like theirs.
Yeah.
And that's how I felt when I was there. I was like, this is so nice to see a community come together and really support something that they hadn't even read it yet. So they were like, didn't even know what it was about. And as I'm going with this book, I was terrified people would hate it. So the first launch was, okay, they're here. And then the second level to this terror was, oh, people are liking it. So that was nice, because I was getting texts and emails and Instagrams and Facebooks, like, finished, 2 days, loved it. Yeah. So then I could start to breathe. So now it's been a month and a half, and I have all the funds in place to do the next 2 books, so everything is good. And this book went over better than I even expected, so I'm really happy with that.
Yeah,
so.
it's very good. So you had the book launch on the long weekend in
I had Friday of
July.
The July long weekend, and we did it on the grounds of Hillcrest. Hillcrest was great. They let me just kind of take over and moosh around, and what a beautiful, beautiful day.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it was beautiful.
Good. I'm glad to hear that. So where can people buy it?
Okay, so this book is available at Timeless Treasures in Hillcrest if you're in Souris. It's also available at Dundee Designs in Alexander, Lady of the Lake in Brandon, and it is at Poor Michael's Bookshop in Onanol, just outside of Clear Lake. It's also available as an ebook on Kindle. Okay. And you can buy a paperback through Kindle if you like, but if you purchase it from one of those stores, so that's Hillcrest, Timeless Treasures, Dundee Designs, Lady of the Lake, or Poor Michael's, then you save your shipping. So whatever you want to do. But ebooks on Amazon, $6 Canadian will get you a day with Till. So hope you enjoy.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah, so the ebooks are great too. A lot of people read that before I could get this final printing done. So that's good.
Well, I'm so happy for your success.
Yeah, thanks.
That's wonderful to know that something that's been inside of you and been so worked out, worked through, you know, you put on paper, and that you feel like people, it almost is like a personal acceptance.
It's a huge journey. I'll tell you that right now. It's a big journey. And I really like that Hillcrest let me use because I asked permission before I put Hillcrest on anything. Yes. Because Carter Brindle, I think I was talking to you a little bit about this before, but Carter Brindle drove the stagecoach in Souris, and he actually was the architect for this. He was self-taught. So I really like that.
Self-taught architect.
Yes.
Built.
He designed
the
Hillcrest Museum. Yeah, for Souris.
Wow.
So I thought, you know, if he could be a stagecoach driver and self-teach himself to be an architect, then maybe I can be an author as a lowly hairdresser. Not lowly hairdresser, but as a hairdresser that has never even dreamt of getting this off the page, off my computer anyway, into the public's hands.
Wow. Well, great job.
Yeah,
great job. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
And thank you so much for joining us here.
Yeah, thanks for having
WCGTV.
me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. Okay. This has been Spotlight on Souris. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for Rebeca Jenkins for being here. We'd like to thank our producer, Sheila Kirkup, our cameraman, Mark Cranwell. My name is Laura Simons. Thank you so much and have a great day.